What are the different types of writing materials that you can use, and why should you know the difference between them? For example, why is a marker easier to teach to write with than a crayon? In this video, I'm going to go through with you all the different types of writing services and writing tools that you can use to teach a child how to write their alphabet, name, and numbers. Also, at the end, I'm going to provide you with 3 tips to ensure a positive teaching experience. Hi, my name is Liz, and you're watching Teaching Kids with Liz. I have 20 years experience working with families and children. I've worked in schools, daycares, before and after school programs, private and publicly funded organizations. I've worked alongside with psychologists, occupational therapists, speech and language pathologists, teachers, principals, and ECEs. I've also even ran my own private applied behavior analysis therapy business, providing at-home private therapy for children on the autism spectrum. Unfortunately, life had other plans for me, and I became very ill when pregnant with my first child. I'm all better now, and I've created this channel to teach others how teaching children is easy when you have the right tools, and I know I can help give you those tools. If you'd like a detailed description of my credentials, please go to the description where I've made a video that goes through all my experience and why you should watch my videos. So if you'd like more tips and tricks on how to teach kids, or homeschooling advice, homeschool curriculums, or home management strategies to help teach children while you are at home or while you are working, please consider subscribing to my channel. You can click that button right on the bottom right-hand side of your screen at any time throughout this video, and it will link you to my subscribe page. Also, don't forget to leave a comment down below of where you are in your homeschooling journey, or if you are just struggling with writing, what are your struggles? Any questions, just leave them down below and I will answer them as soon as I can. Okay, so here we have all the different types of materials that you can use to teach your child. This isn't the only types, there are lots of types, but this sort of goes through the wide range of different types of materials that you can use to teach your child. So from left to right, we have a pencil, a pen, super funky pen that you can switch through all the different colors. My kids love this. It's very motivating for them to use. We have an eraser. We have our crayons, our pencils, our Gen pens. We have small markers, and then we have these that are long markers. So there's a size difference, and that does play a difference when teaching kids. And you can see the size is very small in terms of diameter compared to the bigger markers. The size is bigger. And then we have the dry erase board markers. So here's the electronic tablet. I wanted to show you how easy it is to use in terms of difficulty. It is my most favorite thing to use because it is so easy. So I'm just grasping it very, very lightly, and you can see that it makes some marks on it already. Easy to erase. So this is my favorite because it requires minimal effort, and there is no erasing, there is no mess, and a lot of the kids love to play with the buttons. So this is a really reinforcing tool to use while teaching your kid to write. Then we have the whiteboard, which I consider the next easiest, along with the chalkboard. So I won't cover the chalkboard and the whiteboard at the same time because they are very similar to one another. So again, very, very light grip on this. You can see how there's very minimal effort and you can get a line. I mean, I can draw much darker, but we're talking about the amount of effort required from your child to be able to write. So with a whiteboard marker on a whiteboard, super, super easy. The only thing that does require out of it, which you can make fun as well, is using a whiteboard eraser or a wipe to wipe it away. My kids love this. We've actually done it on many activities where I would draw the letter and they would use the eraser to erase it, and then would say, more mama, and then I would do the next letter. And this way they just start getting the shape of the hand, or the shape of the letter, with tracing it with their hand motion to get that familiarity with the different types of letters. So whiteboard, second easiest. Here we have a piece of paper, and now I'm going to go through with you all these different types of materials that you can use and why one is better than the other, or for which type of child that you can use it for. Because just because these crayons may be a little bit more difficult to use than the markers doesn't mean that your child shouldn't use the crayons. Some children actually prefer the crayons because they grasp a little bit tighter. So you really need to assess what type of material is best for your child. So The end goal is to really get them to write with a pencil. So a pencil, it is very light as well. I'm doing it very, very light. You could do very hard, but to get that, the marks on the paper, very, very light. Same thing with a pen. I use this pen. It's super fun. My kids absolutely love it. They love changing through all the colors. They love the sounds that it makes. So this is just another fun way that you can introduce another type of writing utensil. Very easy, but it does require some pressing down. So I can't just willy-nilly it. The marks don't come out as much. So this, I would consider it a little bit more difficult than the whiteboard marker or the electronic tablet and the pencil. Now I'm going to show you the crayons. So crayons, I would say, are actually the most difficult for some children because it does require, the shape of them is a little tricky. They are small. So some children may benefit from this because their hands are small and they can fit them out here. But some children, they don't like that. They don't like to hold it really close up to the front, or they get too close to the front. So I actually prefer to work with longer size pencils or markers. But this one I would consider would be the most difficult. I apologize, this looks a little different. My footage corrected when I went back to edit this video, so I'm just fixing the parts that were corrupt. So let's continue on. We did the crayon, no effort here. You can see there's not very much drawn there. I'm just holding it and letting it do the work. Then I'm going to use a pencil crayon. Same thing. You can barely see it. I'm not pressing down at all. I'm just letting it flow. And then there's these markers that I have. And there's a difference between all these markers. There's the size difference. There's the width difference. So this one I would recommend would probably be the one that you first want to start teaching a child to write with. It's nice and thick, nice and small. Usually kids love these little ones, or this big one here. You can find these everywhere. A lot of kids recognize these. So starting with these ones, these just have a little bit more weight to them. Some children prefer these bigger ones just because they don't have to hold on too closely to the edge. Whereas this one, when you write, the child's fingers need to be close to the edge versus up here when teaching to write, which is great. It's great for learning, but some children just may not like it at first. Whereas these thin ones, they're harder to hold on with the pencil grip like this. So I would recommend with these ones, children that don't have those skills, those fine motor skills, would find this one much easier to draw with than the little ones. So I suggest starting with the longer and thicker ones than the thinner ones. So I'm just going to show you briefly just how easy they are to write with. Marker is a marker, so I'm not going to show you all the different markers because it doesn't really make a difference. So any marker, a little effort, actually no effort at all, just holding it, you can see that you can see the line. And if you use an even darker marker, you can see the line even better. And now this is me applying pressure. See the difference in that? Versus these ones, this was no pressure. It's just the weight of the marker itself. So a lot of children, starting with markers, because it creates a mark right away with minimal effort, that's the best place to start if you're starting with paper. My suggestion of where to start first would be the chalkboard or the whiteboard, because they see this in a lot of environments, especially in the school environment. Whiteboard markers, super easy. Whiteboard, really, really easy and very reinforcing to erase. A lot of kids like to use their hands, or you can use that eraser like I've showed you previously. The boogie board is also really easy as well. I would recommend it. No effort. and you can still see a mark on it. The only tricky part about this is the pincer grip. So I've seen stylists that are a little bit thicker for kids, but these are a lot of fun just for the button itself. I mean, teaching letters to my kids on here has been a whole lot of fun. Teaching math on here has a whole lot of fun. So boogie board, if you'd like a link, I've put a link down below in the description of the boogie board that I would recommend from Amazon to get. And yeah, that's it. So before I quickly review with you the takeaway points that I want you to make sure that you got solid from this video, I just want to remind you to stay tuned until the end, where I give you my 3 pro tips on ensuring a positive teaching and learning experience. So takeaway number 1. Some materials are easier than others to use. That's very obvious from that video. If you didn't take away that point, I want to make sure that you hear it. Some materials are easier to teach with and learn with than others. That's your number 1 takeaway point. Takeaway point number 2. Start with materials that are easier to use and then work up with the harder ones. So I would start with markers, blackboards, whiteboards before even going to a pencil and paper, or even trying crayons for writing. But again, it depends on your child and your child's grip. So try doing the easy ones first and then working your way up to the harder types of materials. Number 3, the strength of the child's hand will determine what materials you use with. So whether you're at the beginning and the child's hand muscles are very weak, you start with the easier ones. Or some children already have very strong hand muscles, so you might start with the harder ones. So what really dictates which materials you should use are the strength of the child who you are teaching, their muscles and their hands and their capabilities. That's what's going to dictate what materials you should use. So now, like I've promised you, here are my 3 pro teaching tips to ensure a positive teaching and learning experience. Tip number 1, ensure that the child's basic needs are met. Are they hungry? Are they tired? And have they been moving? If the child is hungry, give them a little snack before you start any teaching. If the child is tired, I would lower your expectations of what type of learning you're going to be doing. And step number 3, if the child hasn't been moving very much, if you're switching them from electronics to sitting at the table, or if they've been sitting at the table very much, do a quick body break, 10 minutes, get lots of moving, do some jumping jacks, running, just to get your attention focused. If these 3 needs are not met, you are setting yourself up for tantrums, for behaviors, and to possibly redo the lesson that you're teaching again. I want to stress that when you're teaching anybody, you want to make sure that they are at their best, that they aren't tired, they are not hungry, and they're not bored. So ensuring that those 3 things are met before you do any teaching will really increase your teaching experience and make it so much more fun and enjoyable for everyone. Tip number 2, use multiple senses when you are teaching any skill. So for example, in this one, you're teaching writing. Make sure you use lots of different materials. Make sure you're using lots of different colored papers. Make sure that you're also using videos as well as auditory, so sounds, to help with the writing. I find that when you integrate all the different types of senses in any learning experience, that it really helps integrate the learning and helps the child remember it so much more. So that's my tip number 2. Tip number 3, have fun. This is probably my biggest tip when teaching any child anything. It leads to the most success when you are having fun. The child remembers so much more than you would ever imagine, and it's also enjoyable for you. So making it fun really ensures that there's a positive experience for all, not just you, but the child, and you don't have to come back to it again, because the memory will be a good memory that they want to hold on to and will remember those facts that you're teaching. I'm going to link a video on the screen in just a moment for your next steps. Now that you've learned all about the writing materials that you can use, you're ready for the next step, which is typically teaching a child how to write. So in just a moment, I will link that up on the screen for you so you can follow the next steps. There are 2 videos that I have. One is learning how to write the alphabet, and it's a much longer, detailed version. And then I have one that's a much shorter version, how to teach to write the alphabet, everything you need to know. It's super quick, and by quick I mean like 25-minute video. I go through the entire alphabet from A to Z, uppercase and lowercase. So when you think about it, I know 25 minutes sounds a lot, but we have 26 letters in the alphabet, so I'm not really spending that much time on each letter. I do have that super long video, which is about 40 minutes, and it's filled with information. It is very long, so I highly suggest doing it in chunks, but I wanted to make sure that all the information that you needed was in there. So even though it is really long, it's filled with so much great information. But if it's too much and 40 minutes is a really long video, which I understand, go to the shorter video one, and that will give you the necessary, just the basic tips for you. If you want to learn more about teaching kids and you want any tips and tricks on teaching kids easily and stress-free, consider subscribing to my channel for more content for a positive teaching and learning experience. Comment down below of what are your favorite materials to use when teaching your child. I would love to hear more about you and your children, and if you have any questions, please leave them down below and I will answer them as soon as I can. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.